The stranger in the shed. It was a quiet night. Jacob sat on his wooden porch sipping hot tea and listening to the wind whisper through the wheat fields. His small farm was miles away from the nearest town. He liked it that way. No noise, no people. Just peace. But tonight, something felt wrong. A strange clicking noise echoed from the back of the house. Jacob frowned and stood up. It was coming from the shed, the old metal one where he kept tools and emergency supplies. His hand reached instinctively for the rifle beside the door, not because he wanted to use it, but because sometimes you had to. Slowly, he walked toward the shed. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Each step was slow and careful. The moonlight glowed on the silver roof, and the wind had gone completely silent, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Jacob stopped in front of the door. The clicking stopped. He opened it with one swift motion, and there, standing, in the corner, was not a thief, not a human, not anything he had seen before. It was a tall, thin alien woman, her dark silver skin shining under the single bulb. Her arms were wrapped around a small bundle, something soft wrapped in cloth. She was holding a baby. His mind froze. He didn't move. Neither did she. Then, suddenly, she grabbed a can of food from the shelf and bolted past him like a ghost. "Hey, wait!" Jacob shouted. She ran fast, but her legs gave out after 10 feet. She collapsed in the dirt, arms still holding the bundle tightly to her chest. The food rolled away into the grass. Jacob stood over her, breathing hard, unsure what to do. She was shivering. Her skin was bruised, her breathing heavy and broken. He noticed something else now, the child in her arms, tiny, wrapped tightly. "Eyes barely open. Please," the alien woman whispered, her voice weak. "Please don't hurt us." Jacob lowered his rifle slowly. "I'm not going to hurt anyone," he said. She looked up, eyes full of pain and fear. "My child is hungry." Her voice cracked. And then she passed out. Jacob had no idea what he was doing, but something deep inside him, some ancient human instinct, told him one thing: don't leave them outside. He picked her up carefully, along with the baby, and brought them inside his house. The woman was light, far too light. Like her bones, were hollow. Her skin was cold as ice. He placed her on the couch and checked the baby. It was alive, but barely. The little one's chest rose and fell, slow and uneven. Jacob grabbed a towel, some water, and placed a blanket over both of them. Then he ran to the kitchen and heated milk. He didn't know what alien babies drank, but milk was what his mother gave him when he was sick. It had to count for something. When he returned, the baby was crying softly. The alien woman opened her eyes and saw the bottle in his hand. She nodded slowly. Jacob brought the bottle close. She took it and carefully fed the child. The baby drank, slow, weak sips, but drank. The woman exhaled, like a weight had been lifted. Jacob sat in the chair across the room, still holding his rifle, but it now rested on the floor. They didn't speak for a while, just the sound of a child feeding. Finally he asked, "Who are you?" She didn't answer. He tried again. "Why were you stealing from my shed?" She looked at him. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to, but I had no choice. They are hunting us." "Who's hunting you?" She closed her eyes. "The ones who used us, then threw us away." Jacob didn't understand much, but he understood fear, hunger, desperation, and something about the way she held her baby made him think of his own mother. Long gone now, but still present, in flashes. "Stay here tonight," he said. "You need rest." She blinked slowly. "Thank you." He stood up. "I'll be in the next room. If you try anything, just remember, I still got my rifle." She nodded weakly. He walked away. But before he entered his room, he looked back, one last time. She was humming something, some alien lullaby as her child drifted into sleep. And that night, under the same stars, two worlds shared one roof. But danger was still coming. And this quiet farm was about to become a battlefield of secrets. Shadows in her eyes. The sun rose over the quiet farm, casting golden light across the cracked fields. But Jacob didn't feel peace. He hadn't slept. Instead, he sat at the kitchen table staring at the small figure on his couch, an alien woman wrapped in an old blanket, her child asleep in her arms. She hadn't moved all night, only shifted when the baby whimpered. Jacob had questions, too many, but one thought kept spinning in his head like a storm. Why here? Why him? He stood and made a pot of strong tea, hoping the smell would wake her. It did. She blinked slowly, eyes scanning the room. Not fear this time, but weariness. Jacob walked over, handed her a warm mug. She took it with shaking hands. I don't have alien tea, he said dryly, but it's hot, helps with the cold. She nodded. Thank you, again. Silence followed, thick and heavy. Then Jacob asked the thing that had been itching at his mind since last night. That child doesn't look fully alien. Woman didn't speak at first. Her eyes stayed on her child. He leaned forward. Is it part human? Her throat tightened. Yes, she whispered. Jacob's heart skipped. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she said it, not ashamed, not proud, just broken. He gestured to the baby. What's her name? Her? The woman looked surprised. She is not female. Oh. We call him Rivkael. But you may say Riv. Jacob repeated the name softly. Riv. The baby stirred, eyes fluttering open. They weren't like the mother's. His eyes were lighter with a faint gold ring around the pupils, almost human. He was beautiful. And he looked fragile. How old is he? Barely 1 moon cycle, she answered. He hasn't fed properly since he was born. Jacob looked down at his tea. He wasn't a father. Never married. Never even came close. But something in his gut told him this child wouldn't survive out here. Not without help. He took a deep breath. You said someone was hunting you. She nodded. Who? Her voice turned sharp. The Dominion. My own kind. Jacob raised an eyebrow. They want the child? No. They want him gone. They see him as an abomination. The words hit hard. Jacob gritted his teeth. And his father, he asked. She paused. He was kind, brave. He saved me from them. Was? She looked down. They killed him. Jacob exhaled slowly. Let me guess. A human? She nodded. He fought with the Earth forces during the border conflict. He found me injured, left behind after a raid. He didn't ask questions. He just helped. Her voice cracked. I thought I could keep the baby hidden. But someone reported us, now they won't stop. Jacob stood and walked to the window. Outside, the fields were peaceful. But peace was always an illusion. He knew that from war, from loss. They'll come here too, he said. Yes, she replied. Then why come here? She hesitated, then said, because you were in his records. Jacob turned sharply. He spoke of you, showed me images, said if anything ever happened, I should find you. Jacob's stomach twisted. What was his name? She looked up, eyes soft. Lieutenant Mark Rayner. Jacob froze. That name, he hadn't heard it in years. They had fought together. Mark had saved his life once, and then, just like that, he disappeared. No one knew what happened. And now, his child was lying in Jacob's home. Jacob sat back down slowly, eyes locked on Riv. He didn't understand everything yet. But one thing was clear. This child was family now. The alien woman suddenly grabbed his hand. Her touch was cold, desperate. Please, she whispered. I don't care what happens to me, just promise me you'll keep Riv safe. Jacob didn't speak right away. He looked at her, this strange mother from another world. Her eyes filled with a pain only a parent could understand. He looked at the baby, barely breathing, part of two worlds, unwanted by both. Then he said the only thing that felt right. I'm not letting anyone take him, not while I'm breathing. A tear slid down her cheek. Thank you, human. He looked at her, expression hardening. Name's Jacob, and you better start healing fast. 'Cause if they're coming, we need to be ready. Outside, the wind picked up. Far in the distance, something shimmered in the sky. They weren't alone anymore. Footsteps in the wheat. The wind was too still. Jacob stood at the edge of his field, boots sunk in damp soil, shotgun slung on his back. The wheat had started swaying earlier, but not from wind. Something was moving through it. He crouched low. The golden stalks were high enough to hide a full-grown man, and someone, or something, was definitely out there. Slow, careful steps, crunch, pause, crunch. Jacob's heart tightened. He looked back toward the house. Inside, the alien woman, Lyra, rocked her child gently, humming in a language that made the air feel thicker. Riv had finally stopped crying. Jacob whispered to himself, "Not today." Suddenly, a shape rose from the wheat, tall, armored in dull gray plates. Not human. Jacob's blood ran cold. A scout, a Dominion one. Helmet, breathing tube, a glowing sensor eye that scanned left to right like a cold lighthouse. Jacob ducked back into the barn. He reached for his comm radio. Static. Damn it. Jammed. Of course. He peeked again. Two more Dominion soldiers emerged. One knelt down and examined. Tracks in the soil. They were tracking. And those tracks? Fresh. From Lyra and Riv last night. Jacob moved quickly now, heart pounding, sweat on his neck, despite the chill. He entered the house and locked the door behind him. Lyra looked up. "They're here," he said. Her face lost all color. She stood immediately, clutching Riv tightly. "They won't knock," she whispered. Jacob went to a cupboard and pulled out a box. Inside, an old key, some dusty maps, and a steel hatch lever. He tossed the rug aside near the fireplace. There, under a wooden panel, was a trapdoor. "Down there," he said. "My father built a storm shelter. Only place they won't scan." Lyra hesitated. "You trust me?" He didn't answer. He just opened the hatch. She climbed down carefully, Riv still bundled against her chest. Before closing it, Jacob looked at her. No sound, not even a breath. She nodded. Then darkness swallowed her. Jacob closed the hatch, threw the rug back, and sat at the table, calm, still, like an old farmer sipping his morning tea. Then, boom, boom, boom. They didn't knock. They pounded. 3 shadows outside. No attempt to hide. Jacob stood slowly and opened the door. 3 Dominion scouts, blasters holstered but visible. Their leader stepped forward. Helmet opened with a hiss. A pale blue face, no mouth, just glowing slits where a nose should be. "Human," it said in a strange accent. "We seek fugitives, 1 female, 1 hybrid child." Jacob tilted his head. "You see a woman around here? You think she'd survive in a place like this?" The alien didn't blink. "Scanners trace life signatures. 2 adults, 1 infant, 1 unknown." Jacob shrugged. "My dog. She's old, sleeps near the stove." Another scout stepped forward. Aiming a scanner at the house, Jacob stepped into his path. "You got a warrant?" "This is Earth soil," the leader growled. "Dominion law overrides Earth code during species-level contamination." Jacob spat in the dirt. "That's a fancy way of saying you're trespassing." The leader nodded to the other 2. They began, pushing past Jacob into the house. He let them, but his hands never left the table, where his rifle now sat, just in reach. The alien scanned everything. Shelves, walls, closets. One moved toward the fireplace. Jacob's fingers twitched. Enough. The leader barked suddenly. Nothing here, we move on. The soldier at the fireplace paused, then obeyed. Jacob didn't breathe until they left. The Dominion patrol walked back through the wheat. The stalks swallowed them like ghosts. He waited until they were dots on the horizon before unlocking the trap door. Lyra emerged, trembling, clutching her child tight. They were here, she said. I felt it. Jacob nodded. They'll be back, but not unannounced next time. Lyra sank to the floor, exhausted. You risked your life. Why? Jacob looked at her. Because a long time ago, your child's father pulled me from a burning shuttle and said, humans don't leave each other behind. She closed her eyes. Then we have one chance left. Jacob raised a brow. For what? Lyra looked up, eyes burning with quiet fire. To disappear. The escape plan, that night, no one slept. Jacob sat on the floor with blueprints spread across the table. Old maps, emergency tunnels, abandoned supply routes. Lyra sat close, holding Riv tight. The baby was finally asleep, but his breathing was shallow. The Dominion patrol would come back. Next time, they wouldn't ask questions. They would burn the place down if they had to. Jacob stared at the map of the valley. There's one way out, he said. Lyra leaned in. Old mining tunnels. Haven't been used in years. Starts in the forest, ends 2 miles out near the canyon pass. Will they track us? She asked. He shook his head. Not if we leave before sunrise and cover our tracks. Lyra glanced at her son. He won't survive a long run. I know. Jacob stood and walked over to a locked cabinet. Inside, an old silver case, dusty, sealed tight. He opened it and pulled out a small oxygen wrap, military grade, meant for wounded pilots during battlefield extractions. He handed it to her. Use this on Riv. It'll help his lungs. She looked at the device like it was a treasure. You fought in the Earth War, she said softly. Jacob didn't answer, just loaded a duffel bag with dried food, water, a flare gun, and 2 pistols. Pack light, he said. We move in 2 hours. 2 hours later, the sky was still dark. Only a sliver of moonlight guided their way through the wheat fields. Jacob moved first, rifle in hand, scanning every shadow. Lyra followed close behind, Riv wrapped and tucked against her chest. Every sound felt too loud, a cracking twig, a shifting branch, the whisper of their breath. At the edge of the field, the terrain sloped into dense forest. Trees closed in like silent giants. Jacob found the old marker, a rusted iron pipe, half buried in moss. He tapped the ground beside it and pulled a wooden hatch open. A staircase descended into darkness. This is it, he said. Once we're inside, no light. Just follow my voice. They stepped in. The tunnel smelled like earth and rust. The air was thick. Jacob lit a red flare. It glowed just enough to see 5 feet ahead. The tunnel was tight, built for equipment carts, not people. Lyra whispered. How far? 4 miles, Jacob said. But it gets worse before it gets better. They walked. For an hour. No sounds except their footsteps, their breathing, the faint whimper of Riv now and then. Then, a distant boom. Jacob froze. What was that? Lyra whispered. He tilted his head. Dirt fell from the ceiling. That was my house, he muttered. They found the trapdoor, she said. They torched it, the flare flickered. Jacob tossed it aside and cracked a new one. Suddenly a sound echoed from behind them. Metal boots. Someone was in the tunnel. Lyra gasped. Jacob growled, Run! They ran through the narrow space, ducking low, stepping over broken wood and rusted tracks. Jacob led them into a side tunnel, an old ore path. Dust choked their lungs. Behind them, the sound grew louder. More footsteps. Jacob pulled out his flare gun, aimed down the tunnel, and fired. Boom. A flash of red light exploded behind them. The Dominion scout was knocked back, blinded by the sudden burst, but it wouldn't stop them for long. They kept running until they reached a fork. Jacob paused. Left tunnel loops. Right one leads out. Lyra didn't ask. She followed. Then Riv started crying, loud, painful gasps. No, no, shh, she whispered. Stay with me. Jacob turned and saw the child's body go limp. Give him to me, he said. She hesitated. I said, give him. Trust me. She handed Riv to Jacob. He pulled out a tiny injector from his vest pocket, stuck it into the baby's thigh, and pressed. Soft hiss. Then silence. The child's breathing evened out. What did you do? She gasped. Military stim. Not a cure, but enough to buy us time. She looked at him like he was made of gold. They reached the tunnel exit moments later. Jacob kicked the rusted door open. Cold wind hit their faces. They had made it to the canyon pass. The sky was turning orange now. From the top of the cliff, you could see far into the valley, but behind them, smoke rose in the distance. The Dominion hadn't given up. Jacob turned to Lyra. This was just the first escape, he said. Next step, we vanish. Lyra nodded. Then let's vanish, like ghosts. When Riv called him Papa, the cave was cold, dark, and hidden behind layers of thick rock and twisted vines. It was the kind of place no scanner could easily find. An old rebel shelter from the Earth Dominion War. Jacob knew it because he helped build it years ago before the peace that never lasted. Now it was their only safe place. Riv lay on a pile of soft cloth, wrapped in Lyra's arms. The stim injection had helped, but the child still looked weak, pale, fragile. His little hands twitched now and then, grabbing at nothing. Jacob sat a few feet away, sharpening a hunting knife with slow, steady strokes. Every scrape echoed through the stone walls. Lyra broke the silence. You saved him. Again. Jacob didn't look up. I'm not done saving him. She held her child tighter. He's not just a baby to me. He's everything. Jacob nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that now. Silence again, but this time, not heavy, just tired. Then a small, soft sound filled the cave. Papa. Jacob froze. Lyra looked down, eyes wide. Pa. Riv's tiny voice, cracked and weak, but real. His golden-ringed eyes stared at Jacob, little hand reaching toward him. Jacob dropped the knife. Lyra whispered, almost scared to believe it. He just said, I heard. Jacob crawled over slowly. The child's hand wrapped around his thumb. His grip, though weak, was warm. Jacob had seen war, loss, and death, but nothing had ever hit him like this moment. Riv smiled, eyes fluttering. Papa. Jacob swallowed hard. I'm not your father, kid. But Riv didn't care. His little mouth curled again into a tired, peaceful grin. Lyra wiped her tears. He's never spoken a word before today. Jacob sat there stunned. That one word had cracked something open inside him. A wall he didn't know he had built. You think he remembers Mark? He asked softly. Lyra nodded. Children like Riv, hybrid children. They remember in ways we don't understand. Jacob leaned back, hands over his face. This child, this half-human, half-alien baby, was now his responsibility, whether he wanted it or not. Later, as Riv slept between them, Lyra finally spoke. There's something you need to know. Jacob raised an eyebrow. I didn't just run to save him, she said. I ran because of what's inside him. Jacob narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Lyra looked at Riv like he was a secret weapon wrapped in soft blankets. He has information, stored in his DNA, hidden coding. My people used him for an experiment, something ancient, something dangerous. They didn't expect him to survive. Jacob's blood ran cold. What kind of information? Coordinates, maps, access to something called the Celestial Core. Jacob stared at her. You mean that myth? The energy vault? That's real? She nodded. And he's the key. Jacob stood and paced the cave, No wonder they're chasing you. They don't want him for who he is, she said. They want what's inside him, and when they're done. Jacob didn't let her finish. He slammed his fist into the cave wall. They're not getting him. I don't care if it's a planet, a weapon, or a damn treasure chest. That kid calls me Papa now. Lyra's lip trembled. You mean that? He looked back at her, serious, unshaken. I'm not leaving him. Or you. Outside the cave, the wind howled across the canyon. But inside, something stronger than blood had been born, not by genetics, not by duty, but by choice. Blood, betrayal, and a plan the wind outside was no longer whispering. It screamed. Jacob stood at the edge of the cliff, binoculars in hand. Below, dust clouds rose like ghosts. 3 Dominion dropships had landed in the lower valley. More than scouts this time. A full search squad. They weren't just looking now, they were closing in. Inside the cave, Lyra rocked Riv gently, but her eyes stayed locked on Jacob. How many? She asked. Too many, he said. They're not leaving without blood. She looked down at her child. His cheeks had color now and he was breathing better, but if they were caught, none of that would matter. They're not tracking us through the sky, Jacob muttered. Which means someone told them exactly where to look. Lyra stiffened. You think someone betrayed us? Jacob looked at her, slow and serious. I think someone close to your old camp turned you in. No patrol lands that close unless they already know. Lyra's eyes turned hard. There was one, a medic, Jarrell. He didn't agree with my decision to keep. Riv, Jacob nodded. Well, looks like Jarrell sold your location to the highest bidder. She clenched her jaw. Then let me go back, let me handle it. Jacob raised an eyebrow. You think I'm letting you walk into a Dominion camp and just talk it out? I'm not asking, she said coldly. I know how they think, how they move. I can get close, find out what they know, maybe mislead them. Jacob stepped forward. If they see you, they'll kill you. Not if I wear this. She pulled out a small device from her belt, a skin morph chip. Old tech, banned across systems. Jacob blinked. You've had that this whole time? I didn't smile. I don't like using it, but for Riv, I will. That night, under moonlight, Lyra stepped out of the cave wearing a human face. Pale skin, short hair, neutral eyes, completely unrecognizable. She turned to Jacob one last time. If I don't return in 12 hours, leave. Take him. Don't wait. Jacob wanted to say something. Anything. But he just nodded. He watched her walk into the dark. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed behind and prepared. He set traps, old Earth war tricks using heat decoys and metal echoes. He scanned the canyon paths, rigged a flare launcher in case he needed an air signal. He even taught Riv, a small thing, how to press a button on a bracelet if anything happened. You push this, he said softly to the baby, and Papa comes running. Riv giggled, then sneezed. Jacob smiled weakly. Yeah, you're a real soldier. Hours passed. Then came the first sign, a scream, not far from the lower ridge. Jacob grabbed his rifle, threw Riv in the sling on his chest, and sprinted toward the sound. What he found made his blood run ice cold. Lyra, back in her true form, stood in the open clearing, bleeding from a wound on her leg. Around her, 3 Dominion soldiers lay unconscious. One was still breathing. Jacob rushed to her side. You said 12 hours, he barked. It's only been 6, she coughed. I found the traitor, and I made sure he won't speak again. What happened? I lied to them, she smiled weakly. Told them we escaped toward the East Dunes. Jacob helped her stand. That'll buy us maybe a day, she nodded. Then let's make it count. Back in the cave, Jacob wrapped her wound. You're lucky. The blade missed the artery. Not luck, she said. Just stubbornness. He chuckled dryly. You really are one of us. She looked at him, eyes softening. You stayed. I told you, I don't leave family. Her voice dropped. You think we are family? He didn't answer with words. He just took her hand, held it, and for the first time she didn't pull away. They sat there in silence, Riv asleep beside them, soft breaths filling the cave. But the silence didn't last. A loud beep echoed from Jacob's pocket. His tracker. He pulled it out. The red dot blinked, fast. "What is it?" Lyra asked. Jacob stood slowly. "They found us again." Her eyes widened. "But how?" "I misled them." Jacob's face turned dark. "There's only one explanation left." He held up the bracelet he gave Riv. "The Dominion hacked it. They're listening." He ripped it off and crushed it under his boot. Then he turned to her, jaw tight. "We're done running. It's time we hit back." One shot to freedom. The cave was no longer a hiding place. It had become a trap. Jacob stared at the crushed bracelet on the floor, its blinking light finally dead. Outside, the sound of engines hummed low in the distance. Scout bikes, probably a mile away. Getting closer, fast. Lyra clutched Riv tightly to her chest, her wounded leg wrapped but still weak. "We can't outrun them again," she whispered. Jacob nodded. "We don't." She looked up, confused. He was already opening a hidden box in the wall. Inside lay a suit of armor, Earth Force tactical gear, weathered but strong, a chest plate with burn marks, a cracked helmet, and a small silver necklace tucked inside it. Lyra picked it up. "What's this?" Jacob looked at it. "Mark's dog tag." Her breath caught. "You kept it?" Jacob nodded. "He saved my life. It's my turn to return the favor." To his son. 15 minutes later, Jacob stood at the cave entrance, fully suited. He looked like a soldier from a war long forgotten. Lyra handed Riv to him. "Wait, what are you doing?" Jacob shook his head. "Not me. You're going." She blinked. "No, we stay together." He handed her a small device, a thin, glowing cube. "Emergency evac beacon," he said. "Connects to the old rebel satellite grid. One charge left." Lyra stared at it. Jacob continued. "There's a pod buried under the west ridge. Long range, fully cloaked. I prepped it 2 days ago, just in case. You take Riv, get him off-world." She grabbed his arm. "What about you?" Jacob glanced outside. Dust clouds rising, lights approaching. "I'll draw them away." "No," she said firmly. "You said we're family. Families don't split." He placed Riv gently into her arms. "You said you'd die for him. Now live for him." Tears filled her eyes. "Jacob," he pressed the tag into her hand. "Give this to him when he's old enough. Tell him. His father was brave, and the man who raised him was just as stubborn." She didn't argue again. Jacob ran toward the opposite ridge, firing shots into the air. Dominion scouts turned immediately, chasing the signal. Lyra, cloaked in her morph suit, disappeared into the trees, carrying Riv and the last hope of peace between two species. The canyon echoed with fire and smoke. Jacob fought like a ghost from the past. Grenades, smoke bombs, tactical traps buried under stone. The first wave of Dominion soldiers didn't stand a chance, but they kept coming. A second ship landed. Bigger, heavier. Full assault unit. Jacob was bleeding now. Shoulder hit, leg grazed, helmet cracked. Still, he smiled. He activated the last trick up his sleeve, a seismic core from the rebel days, buried deep under the cliff. He limped to the edge, facing the rising Dominion ship. Dozens of soldiers advancing, weapons drawn. One of them called out, "Give us the child, you don't have to die." Jacob laughed through bloodied teeth. "You really don't know humans, do you?" He tapped the detonator. Boom! The cliff exploded in a firestorm of rock and light. The ground collapsed under the Dominion forces. The dropship flipped sideways and fell into the ravine. Smoke swallowed everything, and Jacob was gone. 1 week later, a quiet planet, green skies, twin moons. Lyra sat on a bench beneath a glowing tree. Riv sleeping in her arms. A peaceful wind blew through the air. She looked down at the small child. His eyes opened. "Riv," she whispered, "you may never know the man who gave his life for you. But he wasn't just brave." She took the dog tag from her pocket and placed it in Riv's small hand. "He was your papa, the one who stayed." The child giggled and held the tag to his chest. Lyra smiled through tears. "And because of him, you're free."